yesterday. It was a surprise to her, but to speak to some people really from all different places, maybe somebody from Canada, from India, somebody from the Bahamas, and she spoke on, I guess it was Zoom, and they're asking her to even do more and more. She did a great job on that. I'm so proud of her. I think it was thousands of people. She said it was 15. I don't know, so how many people were on Zoom, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter the number, right? If there's 12 people on there and she touched even one person's life or all 15, that's what it's about. And so my prayer this morning is the same thing, that you're here this morning because, number one, you want to be here. I hope that you want to be here. I hope that you weren't dragged here kicking and screaming. And I hope that you'll be open to listen. Even if you just hear one good thing today, that's all, just one good thing that you could take with you in your life that could help you in your Mondays, in your Fridays, right, in your week, whatever it is, something that'll benefit your life. That's always my prayer, right? I know I go through a lot of stuff, and a lot of information, and a lot of things, and I'm not naive enough to think that people walk out of here remembering everything I said. I very rarely remember everything I said, and so. But if there's one thing that touches your heart, I'll be glad of that. So we're in a series called 7. It's this in the last book of the New Testament called Revelation. It's these 7 letters to these 7 churches in Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey. And it's this idea that these churches are experiencing difficulty. Everybody look at me for a minute. Can anybody relate to that? Experiencing difficulty. Yeah, exactly right. These churches were experiencing difficulty. Now, their difficulty may be different than our difficulty, right? But it's still life. We all know that life comes at us from all different angles all the time. It's constantly changing. And so these churches were experiencing, to one degree or another, persecution, right? And they were going through different things. And so these letters are meant to be, whatever you've heard about them in the past, whatever you've heard the book of Revelation is about or whatever, this part of Revelation is meant to be an encouragement to the churches, not a putting them down sort of thing, right? And so we have this pattern in there. We talked about the very first message, this pattern of this is what I have for you, this is what I have against you. And the against you is things that you've kind of forgotten, things that are happening to you, not this like, oh, you're so bad. It's not this approach. It's that, look, you have some good in your life and you have some difficulty in your life. Anybody relate to that? Come on, all of us do, right? We have some good things, we have some bad things, and we have a hard time making sense of those things. We have a hard time making sense of the bad things, like why do bad things happen to good people, that sort of thing. Well, these letters are addressing all sorts of issues, okay? I think today's message really resonates with me, not necessarily at this moment in my life, but it resonates in a lot of my life experience, and I would venture a guess that it'll do the same thing with you. So I just mentioned George Tomko. George called me up and he said, they had a loss in their family, and it's kind of a unique thing. It's a 25-year-old. It's a cousin of his, and just difficult circumstances around this, and things are happening. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the way that side of the family wanted things to be done, and George and his family weren't really happy with that. He said, Jeff, is there any way we can do a service at the church? And I said, absolutely. You have the church do whatever you want. He said, would you do the service? I said, I'll do whatever I can. So they're experiencing a difficult time. Any of you ever experienced a difficult time in your life, a challenge in your life? Michelle and I, you all know our story. We came back from Africa, and Michelle was expecting, and a lot of well-meaning people, church people, said a lot of things to us during that time, talking about how special this pregnancy must be. We're being missionaries and not planning a baby and getting pregnant, and how special God certainly has a plan for this child, right? Because why would he do this? Why would he allow this? Why would this, And so we're just listening to that and, I guess kind of wishful thinking or believing, like, yeah, that's true. Like, why wouldn't that be true? I mean, we're missionaries, right? A hierarchy of people in ministry, missionaries are at the top. And not missionaries to the Bahamas, right? I mean, who would sign up for that? I'd sign up for that. Missionaries to the Bahamas. I'll go there, right? That'd be a tough assignment. No, we were missionaries in Central Africa and the Congo, third world, the equator, just wars and famines and, right? So if anybody's at the top, we're at the top of the pyramid. I'm not suggesting that's true, but that's this sense that the church kind of portrays. And so if God takes care of anybody, he takes care of those people. And then, we lost the baby, and many of you have experienced other things like that, of loss of a child. We all expect to lose our parents one day. I mean, so when that happens, even when I was 17 and lost my dad, I thought, well, I heard people saying, he was so young, and I was 17, and I thought, well, he's 44. That's not young. Nobody's giggling about that. 44 is young, isn't it? 44 is young. But 17, I thought, well, it's not that young. I'm 60 now. 44, wow, that's unbelievable. And so we all experience these types of things, and so it may not be persecution of the church in that sense, but friends, that might be coming. Do you agree? Like, that might be coming. It's true in other parts of the world. It's just not true here. And maybe it's more so now than 20 years ago. But did you ever come to a place where your life just seemed to come at you from all sides? You just feel like just curling up in a ball and just, right? And just being left alone. Just leave me alone. Right? Kind of in your own sorrow and so forth, and be left alone with your own questions and all those types of things. And so this is the church in this time, this first century. And so what Jesus does is Jesus, through the Apostle John, says this, like, I want to encourage the church. See, that's the essence of these letters, encouragement. And so the subtitle for our 7 series is Hope in Troubled Times. Hope in Troubled Times. And that's what I'm hoping that you're getting out of this series is there is hope. Because we all face difficulty, we all face troubled times. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes, in there's a portion that the Byrds made famous, the song, right? Turn, 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 you know that song? Well, that's directly from the book of Ecclesiastes, if you didn't know. It talks about there's a time for everything. And I love that because we do have sadness and sorrow. There's a time for grief, isn't there? But there's a time for it. And we need to grieve. We learn how to grieve well. We learn how to, go through difficult times. And I'll mention here in a little bit too is, I look at Michelle and I's marriage. Listen, the good times are great. The good times are good times. But those good times, they're not the catalyst to strengthen our marriage. They're not the times that we, that was so great, we build upon that. It's the difficult times. It's not even the difficult times, it's the working through the difficult times. It's God's presence in our life through the difficult times. Now, when you're going through them, it doesn't seem like there's any strength, there's any hope. But I hope that you, like me, as you look back, you go, wow, it's amazing. The Bible talks about God's grace being sufficient in our time of need. I always thought I'd never be able to handle a situation like we went through, but as I look back, I go, wow, his grace was sufficient. I didn't know that amount of grace before that. Because why? I never needed it before that. And when I needed it, his grace was sufficient for me. Right? It was still hard. It was still sad. It was still, right? So those difficult times. And so this letter to the church in Philadelphia says this: to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write. So like I've done every single time, let's just talk briefly about the city profile of this. Now, I didn't know this before studying it, but this Philadelphia was founded by 2 brothers. And these 2 brothers were known for their fierce love and loyalty to one another. Isn't that amazing? Do you ever wonder where Philadelphia gets its name? The city of what? Brotherly love. It's because of this. That's crazy, isn't it? Like you think that was just somehow, did you ever ask yourself, why is that called that? This is why. So our city, Philadelphia, is named after this city, and we call it the city of brotherly love. I think it was just a made-up motto. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was because these two brothers founded this city. And they've been known throughout all of history as these two brothers that have this fierce love and loyalty to one another. Kind of like Brent and Brock. Well, maybe not. So that's how it gets its name, right? And so this area was very fertile. How many have been to Napa Valley? Have anybody been to Napa Valley? Anybody been to Napa Valley? Napa Valley is, in that part of California, is very similar to this area. This area was volcanic, and so the soil was very rich. Also, it's known for its earthquakes, and so it produced some amazing wines. And the frequent earthquakes were so massive. Now, I wasn't around in '89, but there was an earthquake out in California in '89 that was just unbelievable, and the tremors lasted for a long time. So I've read that there was a massive earthquake that actually destroyed the city in 17 AD, and it was so massive. This is what they say, is that tremors lasted for years after. That's how great it was. And so it's interesting about this city, no one really lived in the city very much. They lived on the outskirts because of these earthquakes and these tremors. Like I said, didn't last for months, but last for years. Listen to this. So this is a quote from a historian, Strabo. He said this: "The walls never ceased being cracked, and different parts of the city are constantly suffering damage. That is why the actual town has few inhabitants, but the majority live as farmers in the countryside." No one wanted to live there. And so then they were given a couple different names for this. I have that in there, a couple different names, Flavia and Neo Caesarea, because this city got a lot of aid from its emperors. And then along comes, we mentioned before, Domitian. Domitian comes along, and he it's amazing. So this is known for its wine and its vineyards. Domitian comes along, and he wants to remove half the vineyards from the town. Why? Well, he wants to prop up the wine trade in Rome, in Italy. So he wants to prop it up. So much of the wine is being produced here. So he says, I want to tear out half the vineyards. Sounds like, I'm glad our governments don't work that way today. You know, I mean, they're kind of more, for us and whatever, right? But he's trying to prop that up. It's amazing how it seems to me, maybe I'm on a soapbox here a little bit, but it's amazing how governments have a way, not just our government, any government has a way of sticking their nose in places that it doesn't belong, right? Don't you think? I mean, what I mean is I think the governments are important, right? We all would agree with that, right? But we talk about government overreach and so forth. Well, this is another example, first century, of government overreach. Right, thinking like, this is this town, this is what they make their living at. Well, I think we need to do this to encourage, the wine trade in Italy. So we're gonna, right? They have no business sticking their nose in these kind of places. So it's not. So if we complain about that today, no, it's not a new thing. It's not something new. This has been around for a long time. And another thing it was known for was festivals. They had religious and athletic festivals that were very, very popular, right? So the question is, why is all this important? I think it's important that we can make a connection, right? We learn a little bit about the history, and we can go, yeah, maybe not everything's a direct parallel. Are you with me? Not a direct parallel, but hard times are hard times, no matter how those hard times comes, and we can relate to hard times. We can relate to a difficult spot. Maybe here in Pennsylvania, like we don't experience earthquakes, right? And we don't experience the ground shaking below our feet. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever lived where metaphorically the ground was shaking beneath your feet? Right? Absolutely. We all go through traumas where our spiritual, emotional footing isn't as stable as we'd like it to be. Feel a little off kilter, feel a little bit off balance, like an earthquake might have you feel. And so if we look at it metaphorically and we say, yeah, I can relate to that, that's exactly what I think we're meant to do. We're meant to not always try to take exact parallels and go, well, it has to be, I talk a lot about the concrete specificity of the text, right? We're not meant to take everything and go, it says this and, God, that's exactly what it means. It's just not. Let's face it, there are a lot of, my next series, I'm so excited, I was talking to Pete about it today. My next series I'm going to do, there's a lot of these scriptures that we read that in the past, in my life, we've taken to be sort of like a spiritual aspect to it, and like one was about fasting and so forth, and how important it is, why we should do it. And I remember being young and people saying about fasting, and to be honest with you, I'll be 100% honest with you, I never saw much benefit in it. Like even it said spiritual time, and I never saw much benefit. But now I start to learn about the benefits of fasting for your body, intermittent fasting, and especially a 3-day fast. Just read up on a 3-day fast in preparation for my next series, how good it is for your body, and how the Bible talks about fasting. I go, wow, God knew, right? And these writers didn't understand it in the sense that what it does to your body, but right, they're writing these things out. And so likewise, all the stuff we read, maybe they didn't quite understand exactly, but that's what I take to be an inspired word, right? Inspired. And so it's a good thing. And so let's look at this for a minute. What this letter specifically is, how it's beneficial to us in our time today, right? Over 100 times in the Bible, we're told to, in dark times, to remember. In dark times, in difficult times, we're told to remember. And I think that's important because one of the things that I've come to learn through my 60 years of life, shame it takes you that long to learn it. I wish young people could listen and learn from the wisdom of older people, the white-haired people that have lived a lot of life, right? And take it and go, these are nuggets. I need to, even if I don't quite understand it right now, tuck it away somewhere for my future and understand it, right? It's like this. It's like contingency planning, right? In Africa, we did contingency planning, and that was this. That was if war broke out in our neighboring city across the Congo River in Kinshasa. We were a country of 6 million. They were a city we were a country of 9 million. They were a city of 6 million. Process that for a minute. They were a city of 6 million. If war broke out there, terrible, they would flood across the river into our city of 800,000. So now our population is going to double, triple, quadruple, right? Just like overnight. What will we do, right? We can't wait for it to happen and try to figure out what we're going to do if war broke out in our city. So the reason why I say that is this, is a lot of this stuff, friends, especially if you're younger, is like, well, that doesn't apply to me. No, but it might one day. It's like contingency planning, right? If you don't have information that's going to help you through dark times, so a lot of this stuff is information to help you through dark times, because they'll come. That's life. And so if you'll take these things and Bible says this, to hide God's word in your heart. What is that about? Well, I have memorized scripture. No, it's for this kind of thing, right? Hey, I remember that. I remember, right? So a message like this is the idea is this. When you need assurance, maybe today you need assurance of something. When you need assurance, I'm going to give us some things to remember. Now listen, you might not need it today, but there'll come a day when you'll need some assurance in your life. So number one is this. When you need assurance, remember this. Number one, remember who Jesus is. Remember who he is. That's why I want to sing this first song again. Because after the message, I hope that you'll pay a little closer attention to the words of that song. And really all the songs today. When you need assurance, remember who Jesus is. He says this, listen. These are the words of him who is holy and true. This is the words of Jesus. They're coming from Jesus. So they need assurance in their troubled times. Remember, these are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the keys of David. Now, I can't get into the whole thing, but the thing about this is the keys of David is this idea of keys to the kingdom, that David was the ultimate, the king over the whole kingdom. And those who have the keys can what? Can do anything. That's this idea, and they knew that. They knew this concept of David having the keys to the kingdom. He said, no, this is the one. Jesus is the one who has the keys. He's the one. So in your difficult times, what he's saying is here, remember who Jesus is. He says this, what he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. So the idea is this, he's the one that has ultimate authority over everything. Louis Giglio did a video one time about this. I'm not sure what it is. I thought of it this morning. I have time to look it up. It's a protein or something. It's called laminin. Have you ever heard of that? Laminin. Matter of fact, I had a picture of it. But Louis Giglio talks about it's like shaped like a cross. Now, whatever, you can say whatever you want. I know the cross is a big a representation of us, of Christianity today. It wasn't, the first 500 years after Jesus, it wasn't, right? It wasn't that thing like it is today. It was looked at as a brutal thing, a horrible thing, not a good thing. And we made it. Anyways, the point is this, in representative of laminin in our body, like Jesus in our life, it's the glue that holds everything together, that holds it all together. When things are falling apart, the idea is this, Jesus is the glue that holds it together, holds everything together in our life. I know Connie just pulled it up on her phone. If you want to pull it up, you can see that. Laminin, Laminin, laminin. And he says this, he says, I know your deeds. Now, this isn't, again, remember this, we've gone on with all, this isn't like negative. I remember your deeds, isn't that the way we live a lot, right? God has a long memory, and his memory is what I've done wrong. No. It's the wrong view of God. It's the wrong view of Jesus, right? He said this, I know your deeds. I know your heart. I know your good stuff. Do you do stuff wrong? Yeah, I know that. I get that. But I know the goodness in your life. I know your deeds. He said, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. He says, I know you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Revelation 3:8. He said, I know your deeds. And what he's saying is, like he says to all the other churches, listen, I know where you live. I know what it's like. To our brothers and sisters who are trying to follow Christ in Africa or in China, he's saying that, I know where you live. I get it. I know how hard it is here. And maybe there's going to come a day here where it's going to be hard to live a life following Jesus. It already is. It can be difficult. And I'm not saying, I think people make their own difficulties in life, right? They're about what they're against. Don't be about what you're against. Don't be about who you're against. Don't be that kind of follower of Jesus. That's actually not a follower of Jesus. Be about love, right? Be known for that. Jesus says, they'll know you're my disciples, not about what you're against, what you stand up against, who you're against, right? Behavior and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't say that. He says, they'll know you're my followers by your love. Be known by your love. Be known by your love for God. Be known for your love for your fellow man. Like that's what he wants us to be known for. So he says, in your hard times, I know your deeds. I know how you have kept the faith. You've kept the word alive in your heart. They couldn't be conquered because there was something so real in them, so real in their life that they couldn't be conquered. They had such an assurance deep in their heart. And I find that's true of a lot of people. Maybe you don't have a lot of the knowledge, right? No, I'm not saying knowledge is bad. You don't have a lot of the knowledge, but you have something in your heart to go, you know what? I just believe. Now I'm a big supporter, huge supporter of knowing why you believe what you believe, whether it's for or against the Bible. I know people that are against the Bible, and I'll ask them questions, and they have no foundation to stand on, none. I don't respect that, right? Or someone that has, right, I believe this. I'll go, well, why? Just tell me why. All I want to know is why. If you tell me a why, good. If you don't know why, if it's just because that's just what you think, well, I say I have no respect, I still respect the person, but I mean, like, I'm not going to listen. Like, tell me why it is. Tell me why it is that you don't believe in God. Tell me why. Explain it to me. Well, I just don't think it's real. Well, that's not good enough. Tell me why you believe in God. Have some sort of foundation, even if it's right, it's yours, that you've done some work, and I own this, right? So I find that a lot of people, it's not that they don't believe in God, right? Or it's not that they're atheists or whatever. They just don't believe in this system that they see. It's really, I don't believe in that, right? So people tell me I don't believe in God. Well, tell me about the God that you don't believe in. It's funny because they say they don't believe in God, but they have an image of God. Well, I thought you don't believe, anyways. And they'll tell me about their image of God, and I go, well, I don't believe in that God either. That's the beauty of it. Like, I don't think that God exists. What do you mean? Let me tell you about the God I think that exists. You follow me? Okay, so this door, what is it about this door? Well, there are a couple different theories about the door, the interpretation of, basically two interpretations of this open door. One is they're open for opportunity for the gospel, right? Philadelphia was this gateway city to the east. It was sort of like a missionary city, not in a missionary like you, in the sense that I was a missionary, but a missionary city in the sense for Greek culture spreading throughout the area, and it really worked. Like, people would come through there and they would see the way they lived, and so it was promoting the Greek way of living, and we actually live that way today. We don't follow. That's why the Old Testament's so hard for us, because we don't think like the Hebrews did. Like, to be honest with you, the Old Testament's really, really, really hard to understand because they don't even think like us. New Testament's a little bit easier because we think like the Greeks think. Right? And that's because a large part of cities like Philadelphia, where it was this gateway city that spread Greek culture everywhere. And he's saying, you're going to be like that. You're going to be like as a people, you're going to be like a gateway to the world. You're going to live in such a fashion that's going to spread. Do you follow me? So that's one interpretation of what this is, a gateway to the gospel. Another one is this open, it's like an entryway into God's kingdom, which is similar, I think, not in a sense of open kingdom of heaven, like going to heaven one day, but into kingdom living, into a fashion of living, which I think is similar, okay? I'm not going to say much more about that. You can kind of research that yourself or whatever, you know. But I think it's important for us that this idea is this, that it helps us kind of reset our thinking a little bit, right? This idea of remembering Jesus and what it's about. And let me just pause here for a minute, this interjection. So, coming to church and doing music, it's like a reset. I was telling somebody the other day, I think church, I think the music and the preaching, I think there's benefit in it. I really do. I think there's benefit. But I don't think the benefit is what people think. I think that people think a lot of times the benefit of that is 80% of why I come to church. I'm not so sure. Because I talk to some people, and a lot of times people, and this isn't a negative criticism, like I said, because I don't remember sometimes. People don't remember what was said. They really don't. Right? Isn't that true? Yeah, it's just true. It's just true. No matter how eloquent the guy is or girl is or whatever, it's just, maybe if you take away one thing, I think that's good. It's going to be helpful. So then what's the benefit? Well, I think maybe that's a small part of it. I think the benefit is coming here and being together, of learning what community is, of helping one another and being there through the difficult time. How are you aware of the difficult times of somebody else if you're watching online? It's really hard to do. That's why 2020 was so difficult. We were so separated. I think we need to come back to this because the benefit, because I can just do it at home. Well, you can, but that's only small. I don't know what percentage is. I don't know what it is, but it's a small percentage, I think. I think the big percentage is more community. That's why we do things like meal groups, right? Right? Because we don't naturally anymore, unfortunately, naturally live in community anymore. We're all separated. And so I try to, as a kind of a leader, is try to foster more community. And so I try to do it really kind of artificially, right? I make you go over someone's house and you have dinner, right? I say I make you. I ask you strongly, participate in this. Why? To get back to community about the importance of what that is. So let's move on. But so in difficult times, remember who Jesus is. Number 2 is this. Remember, likewise, remember who you are in him. Remember who you are in him. So he said, so there's some weird things in here. You have to kind of think about it a little bit. It says this. It says, I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan. So who goes to synagogue? Who went to synagogue? Who goes to synagogue today? Jewish people. This isn't anti-Semitic. That's not what this is. Right? So what's he mean by the synagogue of Satan? Do you think everybody that goes to a church that's called a Christian church, do you think every single person is a follower of Jesus? Like really tries to follow Jesus in their life? Probably not. Probably not. And so he knows that in this time there were these religious leaders that were just not promoting true faith. They had all kind of rules and regulations to follow and do this stuff. It was more the thumb, more the control. Maybe you've been associated with a church. I have been associated with a church like that. It was all about following rules and regulations, right? And we know that Jesus comes along and says, the rules and regulations. Let me just tell you, if you love God and you love others, and you truly live that way, you don't have to worry about the rules. The rules will naturally happen in your life, the following of rules, right? The living good and treating people right and fairly and kind, right? Those kind of things. And so they were big on, oh no, follow the rules. And then they would start to make up their own rules, right? Well, I know the Bible doesn't say this, but we say, well, really? I mean, what does that have to do with love and so forth, right? And so we remember who we are in him. It says this, I will make those who are a synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, they are liars, right? In other words, it was about something else. It was about control. It was about power. Those sorts of things. It happens today. Unfortunately, it happens today. I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. Right? I have loved you. Let me just give you when I was in Africa, it's a lot like even today. When I was in Africa, I was the director of the work in Congo. And being a director, right, being in leadership, the organization allowed me privy to information about all the missionaries that were there. And so I had all this knowledge that isn't open to everybody. It was open to me because they wanted me to know backgrounds and everything. So I knew of everybody. And then a situation transpired where it looked, given the history, it looked kind of dangerous for this situation. So I had to ask a missionary is just like me, paid his own way and everything, and was there. I was his director, I was his boss, and I had to ask him to come out of the village and come back to the city. Well, everybody thought that was a horrible thing that I did, right? Terrible thing that I did. But I had to do it, and my superiors knew I had to do it. And I got all this criticism, all the other missionaries, and they all had this bad view of me. But I couldn't go to them and say, well, listen, here's why I had to do it, because I know all this information. Let me tell you all this information. You would do the same thing. I couldn't do that, right? Because that's not right. It's not their business. And the person that I called back is free to say whatever they wanted to say to those people. And of course, hurting people do what? They say hurtful things. And so I went through this. I went through all that whole situation, this whole difficult times. But I had to rely on, listen, I know who I am in Jesus. And I knew this. I knew that God would be my defender. Now, that's not to say that any of these people had a good view of me. As a matter of fact, when we were supposed to go back to Africa, the leadership in Wycliffe said, Jeff, unfortunately, you can't go back to the same place. You led them through a change, and you've done things, and they were all good things, and we're so thankful that you were there. But they'll never see you in the light of a leader. We need someone else to take them to a new place, and they'll accept a new leader with all the stuff that you implemented. They could go with that. So we need to take you to a new place, right? And so through that, I learned that I don't need to defend myself. It's happened already in the church here. People have spread different things about stuff that Michelle and I have had to do, and listen, I can't say anything about it because it's private information that I know. I can't do that. So you'll think what you will. But the point is this: I know who I am in Him. I know who I am in Christ. And I know that He will always be my defender. Does that mean that I'll be vindicated? It doesn't mean that, but He knows me, right? He knows me, and I know Him. And that's all I need. That's the assurance that I need through those types of things. The last thing is this. The last thing is remember all that you have in Jesus. Listen to this. I love this. Charles Spurgeon said this. Matter of fact, here's a takeaway. You want to take something away from today, and everything else I said kind of went in, went out there. Listen to this. Charles Spurgeon said this. We are too prone to engrave our trials in marble and write our blessings in sand. Isn't that good? Isn't that true? I was just talking to Pete about that today, about if you want to live in the past, and our bodies respond. How does your body respond to? You think it responds to exterior stimulus? It responds more to your way of thinking than anything else. You ask anybody in the medical community, they'll tell you that. That's why doctors will not operate on somebody if people think they don't stand a chance of surviving the surgery. Did you know that? They won't operate on them. That's how powerful they know the mind is. We have a tendency to live in the past, present, right? And live in those sorts of ways. And this, remember all that we have in Jesus. So you begin to, if you live in the past in the negative, right? And you're constantly thinking in the negative, your body responds to that. And you can't expect your future to be any different than your past, right? And so, but if you remember the good, you remember, Michelle and I have said all the time, times in Africa, whenever, it got so hard, I said, Michelle, let's just go home. Well, I didn't sign up for this. And she said, but don't you remember, Jeff, that what God did in our life to get us here, right? That we're in a good place here, right? And God is with us here. And I go, yeah, and she talked me out of it. And the majority of the time, it was her that wanted to go home. No, I'm just kidding. There were times when Michelle wanted to go home, right? I just said, straighten up, woman, we're staying here. That's how I said it. She was more tactful than me. But remember the good. Remember the good. Like focus on that. Why don't the band come up? Come on up. I want to do that last song. He said this. He said, I'm coming soon. Hold on to what you have, so that no one will take your crown. The one who is victorious, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. Never again will they leave it. I will write on them the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which is coming down out of heaven from God. I will also write on them a new name. Hold on to what you have. Remember the good that God has done in your life. And write those things in marble. And then the difficult times, the hard times, remember how He got you through them. And the rest of it, let it just be washed away. Did you ever write your name in the sand and then the waves came and took it away? Allow it just to be removed. All the negativity. We remember who Jesus is. We remember who we are in Christ. And remember all that He has done for us. Wow. It's going to help, going to take care of a lot of stuff in your life. Simple message, isn't it? But it's not. This isn't meant to be rocket science. It isn't meant to be difficult. Even the scriptures aren't meant to be, difficult. You just have to do a little bit of work. You have to do a little bit of digging. They're only mysterious because we try to think they're somehow, it just means what it says. Well, you have to do a little bit of work. Now, I try to do that work for us, but I encourage you to do that kind of work as well. So let's do this last song again. Hey, Caleb, great job on this song. That's why I wanted it again. And you grab this for me right there. Listen, I'm not one to do this. I'm not one to, I always tell them, you don't need to be cheerleaders or anything, you know what I mean? Let people do it. But can I just ask you to stand for this song? Everybody stand up for this song. Scott, you too. I'm just kidding. Scott's my buddy. Just listen, absorb the words of the song and enjoy the talent of the musicians and the singers. And man, I hope that you'll leave encouraged by the message. You'll leave with maybe at least one thing, right? And you'll be lifted up by the music and the worship that we have this morning. Thanks. Michelle, you close in prayer.